Okay, so today in class, we just got off talking about technology and kind of some of your hopes for it and your fears for it. And I asked the class today, we're just going to focus in on social media a little bit. And I asked people to consider, like, do you think that the good of social media outweighs the bad, or conversely, do you think it does more harm than good? So we're going to do a little bit of reading about some concerning things that social media does. There are some questions for you to answer as you go along. It might be helpful as you're watching this to have them out to be thinking about them. But we'll read this both today and tomorrow and kind of have some conversations about it. So I'll just go ahead and start. Have you ever wondered if all those people you see staring intently at their smartphones nearly everywhere and at all times are addicted to them? According to a former Google product manager you are about to hear from, Silicon Valley is engineering your phone, apps, and social media to get you hooked. He is one of the few tech insiders to publicly acknowledge that companies responsible for programming your phones are working hard to get you and your family to feel the need to check in constantly. Some programmers call it brain hacking, and the tech world would probably prefer you didn't hear about it. But Tristan Harris openly questions the long term consequences of it all, and we think it's worth putting down your phone to listen. Tristan Harris. This thing is a slot machine. Anderson Cooper. How is that a slot machine? Harris. Well, every time I check my phone, I'm playing a slot machine to see what did I get. This is one way to hijack people's minds and create a habit, to form a habit. What you do is you make it when someone pulls a lever, sometimes they get a reward, an exciting reward. And it turns out that this design technique can be embedded inside of all these products. The rewards Harris is talking about are a big part of what makes smartphones so appealing. The chance of getting likes on Facebook and Instagram, cute emojis and text messages, and new followers on Twitter. Harris. There's a whole playbook of techniques that get used to get you using the product for as long as possible. Cooper. What kind of techniques are used? Harris. So Snapchat's the most popular messaging service for teenagers. And as we read this, I asked because I thought that might not be true. And my class confirmed to me that they don't think this is true anymore. This article is a couple of years old, so just, take that under consideration. But I still think a lot of the points at home. And they have been in this feature called Streaks, which shows the number of days in a row that you've sent a message back and forth with someone. So now you could say, well, what's the big deal here? The problem is that kids feel like, well, now I don't want to lose my streak. But it turns out that kids actually, when they go on vacation, are so stressed about the streak that they actually give their password to like 5 other kids to keep their streak going on their behalf. And so you could ask, when these features are being designed, are they designed to most help people live their life, or are they being designed because they're best at hooking people into using the product? Cooper. Is Silicon Valley programming apps, or are they programming people? Harris. Inadvertently, whether they want to or not, they're shaping the thoughts and feelings and actions of people. They're programming people. There's always this narrative that technology is neutral and it's up to us to choose how we use it. It's just not true. Technology is not neutral. Now, this is a question to think about. What does he mean when he says it's not neutral? And what I was saying is, I think the answer to this question might be that you think that when you use technology, you're using it for what you want to do, and he's arguing that technology is trying to get you to do what it wants you to do. It's not neutral. They want you to use it in particular ways and for long periods of time because that's how they make their money. It's rare for a tech insider to be so blunt, but Tristan Harris believes someone needs to be. A few years ago, he was living the Silicon Valley dream. He dropped out of a master's program at Stanford University to start a software company. 4 years later, Google bought him out and hired him as a product manager. It was while working there that he started to feel overwhelmed. Harris. Honestly, I was just bombarded in email and calendar invitations and just the overload of what it's like to work at a place like Google. And I was asking, when all this is, when is all of this adding up to like an actual benefit to my life? And they ended up making this presentation. It was kind of a manifesto, and it basically said, look, never before in history have a handful of people at a handful of technology companies shaped how a billion people think and feel every day with the choices they make about these screens. His 144-page presentation argued that the constant distractions of apps and emails are weakening our relationships to each other and destroying our kids' ability to focus. It was widely read inside Google and caught the eye of one of the founders, Larry Page. But Harris told us it didn't lead to any changes, and after 3 years, he quit. Harris. And it's not because anyone is evil or has bad intentions. It's because the game is getting attention at all cost. And the problem is it becomes this race to the bottom of the brainstem. Where if I go lower on the brainstem to get to you, using my product, I win. But it doesn't end up in the world we want to live in. We don't end up feeling good about how we're using all this stuff. Cooper, you call this a race to the bottom of the brainstem. It's a race to the most primitive emotions we have: fear, anxiety, loneliness, all these things. Absolutely. And that's again because in the race for attention, I have to do whatever works. Technology absolutely wants one thing, which is your attention. Now he travels the country trying to convince programmers and anyone else who will listen that the business model of tech companies needs to change. He wants products designed to make the best use of our time, not just grab our attention. Cooper, do you think parents understand the complexities of what their kids are dealing with when they're dealing with their phone, dealing with apps and social media? Harris, no. And I think this is really important because there's a narrative that, oh, I guess they're just doing this like we used to gossip on the phone. But what this misses is that your telephone in the 1970s didn't have 1,000 engineers on the other side of the telephone who were redesigning it to work with other telephones and then updating the way your telephone worked every day to be more and more persuasive. This was not true in the 1970s. How many Silicon Valley insiders are there speaking out like you are? Harris, not that many. We reached out to the biggest tech firms, but none of them would speak on the record, and some didn't even return our phone call. Most tech companies say that priority is improving user experience, something they call engagement, but they remain secretive about what they do to keep people glued to their screens. So we went to Venice, California, where the bodybuilders on the beach are being muscled out by small companies that specialize in what Ramsey Brown calls brain hacking. Ramsey Brown, a computer programmer who now understands how the brain works, knows how to write code that will get the brain to do certain things. Ramsey Brown studied neuroscience before co-founding Dopamine Labs, a startup crammed into a garage. The company is named after the dopamine molecule in our brains that aids in the creation of desire and pleasure. Brown and his colleagues write computer code for apps used by fitness companies and financial firms. The programs are designed to provoke a neurological response. Cooper, you're trying to figure out how to get people coming back to use the screen. Brown, when should I make you feel a little extra awesome to get you to come back into the app longer? The computer code he creates finds the best moment to give you one of those rewards, which have no actual value, but Brown says trigger your brain to make you want more. For example, on Instagram, he told us sometimes those likes come in a sudden rush. Brown, they're holding some of them back for you to let you know later. Later in a bigger burst, like, hey, here's the 30 likes we didn't mention from a little while ago. Why that moment? So all of a sudden you get a big burst of likes. Yeah, but why that moment? There's some algorithm somewhere that predicted, hey, for this user right now, who is experimental subject 79B3 and experiment 231, we think we can see an improvement in his behavior if you give it to him in this burst instead of that burst. When Brown says experiments, he's talking generally about the millions of computer calculations being used every moment by his company and others to constantly tweak your online experience and make you come back for more. Ramsey Brown, you're part of a controlled set of experiments that are happening in real time across you and millions of other people. Cooper, we're guinea pigs. Brown, you're guinea pigs. You are guinea pigs in the box pushing the button and sometimes getting the likes, and they're doing this to keep you in there. All right. Oh, wait, I want to read this next little bit and then I'll stop. The longer we look at our screens, the more data companies collect about us, and there are more ads, and the more ads we see. Ad spending on social media has doubled in 2 years to more than $31 billion. You don't pay for Brown. You don't pay for Facebook. Advertisers pay for Facebook. You get to use it for free because your eyeballs are what's being sold there. Think about that statement. Your eyeballs are sold as the product for these companies. Cooper, that's an interesting way to look at it, that you're not the customer for Facebook. Brown, you're not the customer. You don't sign a check to Facebook, but Coca-Cola does. Brown says there's a reason text and Facebook use a continuous scroll, because it's a proven way to keep you searching longer. All right, we're going to stop there for today, and we're going to pick up tomorrow. Like I said, you can answer those questions whenever you want. But yeah, all right, have a good day. Bye.